Close your eyes. Feel the warm evening air of a small town in the Philippines. The clock reads 6:15 p.m., and the sun has slipped below the horizon, leaving behind a soft glow. In this quiet moment, a 30-year-old factory worker finds solace. He shuts off the machines that dictated his day. Now, he listens to the rhythmic hum of his computer. His gaze meets the bright screen, illuminating the room with unimaginable opportunities. This is his gateway to the world of Axie Infinity. His transition is profound. Hours once spent on an assembly line transform into strategic maneuvers in a virtual landscape. Here his rewards aren't in sweat-stained bills. They come as cryptocurrency, a new kind of prosperity. The shift is from tangible to ethereal, from concrete to coded. Value now stems from digital skill and strategic acumen. He's not alone. His younger brother, once packing boxes under fluorescent lights, follows him. Their neighbor, a tricycle driver, navigating congested streets, joins as well. Together, they form a nucleus of a new community. They're drawn to the promise of a fresh start. Their stories echo a broader narrative across the town. Nearly half the population finds new livelihood in Axie Infinity's virtual realm. For them, the game goes beyond entertainment. It becomes a lifeline, a source of income when traditional work is scarce, especially as COVID-19 ravages global economies. Within this digital space, possibilities expand. Axie Infinity offers economic hope in a time of darkness. It's more than a pastime, it's a financial instrument. By early 2021, Axie Infinity, born in Ho Chi Minh City under Trung Nguyen's guidance, became a sensation. It captivated loyal players and intrigued economists and tech experts. Business schools analyzed its economic model. They saw new possibilities for blockchain applications. Axie Infinity evolved beyond a game. It became a subject of academic curiosity and entrepreneurial inspiration. At its peak, the game boasted 2 million daily players. From Southeast Asian cities to Venezuelan villages, from Indonesian islands to remote corners of the globe, players logged in. They hoped to earn a living through this digital ecosystem. The creators, once visionaries, now stood at the height of success. Their creation reshaped lives and redefined digital work. In this virtual playground, players engaged with mystical creatures called Axies. Not mere pets, these were unique, non-fungible tokens on the Ethereum blockchain. Rarity and verifiability made each Axie a valuable asset. They were bred, battled, and traded, forming the ecosystem's core. The creature's authenticity and scarcity drew a global community into a shared digital economy. Yet, shadows lurked in this digital realm's corners. Unchecked creation of smooth love potions, the in-game currency, posed economic challenges. Inflationary pressures threatened stability. Doubts about the game's sustainability arose. Early warning signs hinted at vulnerabilities within this digital empire. In March 2022, a major security breach exposed these vulnerabilities. It was a watershed moment, shaking player trust and sending shockwaves through the community. The breach led to a dramatic fall in token values. Fortunes vanished overnight. Many who relied on the game for their livelihood faced chaos. Axie Infinity's meteoric rise was eclipsed by an equally swift collapse. In the aftermath, questions lingered. Axie Infinity's story shifted from success to a stark lesson in digital economy fragility. It reminded all of the uncertainties tied to technological innovation. Human aspirations were tethered to these innovations. As dust settled, developers, the community, and the world pondered the lessons learned. They considered the road ahead in the ever-evolving digital landscape. The evening air in the small Philippine town is still. The computer screens glow as the room's only light. Here in this quiet digital and physical worlds meet. They intertwine in the experiences of those daring to dream anew. In 2018, in the heart of Ho Chi Minh City, Trung Nguyen faced a pivotal moment. The city thrummed with life, a collision of tradition and modernity. Amidst this backdrop, Nguyen, quietly determined, saw beyond the horizon of conventional gaming. Blockchain technology captured his imagination, promising possibilities that transcended the ordinary. With a small band of like-minded visionaries, he founded Sky Mavis. Their mission, to create a game that would redefine digital ownership. Their venture was ambitious, fraught with Day ahead. By early 2020, the world was reeling from the shockwaves of the COVID-19 pandemic. Economies faltered, daily routines disintegrated, and millions found themselves confined to their homes. Amidst this upheaval, the nature of work itself began to change, with digital platforms assuming newfound importance. One such platform was Axie Infinity, crafted by Sky Mavis. Axie Infinity emerged not merely as entertainment, but as a glimpse of hope. Players worldwide discovered its innovative play-to-earn model, which allowed them to earn cryptocurrency through gameplay. This was a game changer. The platform provided a supplementary income source, particularly critical in a time marked by soaring unemployment and financial instability. In the Philippines, where economic challenges loomed large, Axie Infinity quickly became a lifeline. Families saw the potential of the game to either augment their earnings or serve as their primary income. The mechanics were simple yet impactful. Players could breed, battle, and trade digital creatures known as Axies, accumulating in-game currency named Smooth Love Potions, SLPs, in the process. These SLPs could be exchanged for real money, offering a beacon of hope amid financial uncertainty. The allure of the game was multifaceted. It fused technology with economic empowerment. For many, Axie Infinity was more than a digital escape. It was a crucial income stream. Stories from players were deeply personal. Consider Jenny, a single mother in Cabanatuan who used her earnings to finance her children's education. Or Miguel, who turned to Axie Infinity to support his family after his job in hospitality vanished. Behind the curtain, Sky Mavis recognized the profound impact of their creation. Trung Nguyen and his team weren't just game developers. They were architects of a new economic model. They embraced blockchain technology to redefine digital ownership and enhance player engagement. This play-to-earn approach wasn't just an innovation. It was a revolution. Axie Infinity leveraged the Ethereum blockchain to ensure each Axie existed as a unique non-fungible token, or NFT. This guaranteed authenticity and rarity, key to sustaining a digital ecosystem. Developers faced the intricate task of maintaining balance. They had to keep the game engaging while managing its in-game economy to stave off inflationary pressures. The game's popularity exploded. By mid-2021, it attracted over 2 million daily active players. The media took notice. It was hailed not just as a technological milestone, but as a socio-economic experiment. Economists analyzed its model, pondering whether similar frameworks could redefine work and online interactions. Axie Infinity captured the imagination of gamers, investors, and policymakers alike. In response to this meteoric rise, Sky Mavis seized the opportunity. They expanded their team, enhancing the game's features and ensuring servers could accommodate the surge of new players. Community building became a focal point. Axie Infinity's forums and social media buzzed with activity as players shared strategies, tips, and personal narratives. This community-driven ethos became one of its greatest strengths. Yet, challenges surfaced alongside this growth. The game's internal economy required vigilant management. As more players earned and traded SLPs, the currency's supply ballooned, risking devaluation. Sky Mavis's team worked tirelessly to implement solutions. They knew that maintaining economic stability was vital not only for their success, but for the millions relying on the game as a daily income source. Around the globe, similar stories unfolded as players adapted to this digital reality. In Venezuela, a country grappling with hyperinflation, Axie Infinity became a lifeline. Players like Carlos found a way to escape economic despair, earning enough to support his family and assist neighbors. These stories showcase the potential of digital economies to transcend borders and bypass traditional financial systems. Innovation remained a priority for Sky Mavis. They introduced updates to keep the game fresh and engaging. New features and challenges emerged, shaped by community feedback. Trung Nguyen and his team were steadfast in their vision. Axie Infinity could be more than a passing trend. They aimed to create a lasting legacy within digital entertainment and economy. As the world continued to grapple with the pandemic's impact, the allure of play-to-earn gaming grew. People sought new ways to connect and create value in virtual spaces. Axie Infinity offered more than a game. It was a social platform, a marketplace, and a community. Its rise during these uncertain times signaled a broader shift in how people interacted with technology and each other. Despite its success, Axie Infinity faced scrutiny. Critics questioned the sustainability of its economic model and the risks of relying on digital currencies. Cryptocurrency market volatility added complexity. Sky Mavis was aware of these challenges and worked diligently to devise strategies that would ensure the game's stability and appeal. They sought to educate players about the risks and rewards of this new digital frontier. The journey of Axie Infinity showed what could happen when technology met human ingenuity. Its rapid ascent proved that digital platforms could offer more than entertainment. They could provide hope, purpose, and a crucial economic lifeline. For many, Axie Infinity was where dreams of a better future intersected with reality. As we conclude this chapter, reflect on how Axie Infinity reshaped lives and communities worldwide. Its rise was not only a tale of technological achievement, but also a narrative of human resilience and adaptation. As Trung Nguyen and his team at Sky Mavis looked to the future, they remained committed to pushing the boundaries of what a game could achieve, both digitally and in reality. In July 2021, more than 2 million people logged into Axie Infinity each day. Among them was Jenilyn Cuneta from Cabanatuan City, Philippines. Jenilyn, a single mother, found she could support her family through earnings from the game, an outcome she once deemed impossible. Her journey began after a neighbor, who achieved financial independence through the play-to-earn model, introduced her to Axie Infinity. Jenilyn's journey began small. She started with a modest investment, pooling resources with friends to purchase her first set of Axies. Each Axie, a unique digital creature, was a non-fungible token on the Ethereum blockchain, ensuring its authenticity and rarity. Her initial months were challenging, filled with learning the game's mechanics and strategies, but her persistence paid off. Soon, she was earning smooth love potions, SLP, the game's in-game currency, in significant amounts. The economic impact of her virtual exploits extended beyond her immediate family. Jenilyn's success allowed her to contribute to her community, a region with limited employment opportunities. This phenomenon did not go unnoticed. As stories like hers spread, Axie Infinity captured the attention of economists and tech enthusiasts worldwide. They marveled at how a digital game broke traditional economic barriers, offering income where jobs were scarce. The landscape of work and economic empowerment seemed to shift under this digital ecosystem's influence. Meanwhile, in Ho Chi Minh City, Trung Nguyen and his team at Sky Mavis observed as their creation captured global attention. The platform's success confirmed their vision of redefining digital ownership and bridging entertainment with livelihood. Yet, growth brought unforeseen challenges. The rise in player numbers led to a surge in Axie demand, causing market prices to climb. For new players, entry costs became increasingly prohibitive. Trung and his team realized they needed to address this issue to maintain accessibility and sustainability. As Axie Infinity's player base skyrocketed, so did the creation of smooth love potions. The proliferation of SLP led to inflationary pressures within the game's internal economy. Players like Jenilyn, who once thrived, began to see their earnings decrease in value. Sky Mavis grappled with an economic model teetering under its own success. The team explored solutions, including adjusting SLP production mechanics and its in-game use. They considered implementing new systems to better regulate the digital economy they had created. These measures aimed to stabilize the game's economy and sustain the income opportunities it offered to millions. However, changes in game mechanics often met resistance from players fearing impacts on their livelihoods. Despite these challenges, Axie Infinity remained a force in the gaming world. By late 2021, discussions of its economic model reached academic circles, prompting debates about the future of digital work. The game's impact was analyzed in conferences and publications, with experts exploring whether its play-to-earn model heralded a new era of employment possibilities. In Manila, the University of the Philippines hosted a symposium on digital economies, where scholars dissected Axie Infinity's success and its broader implications. One speaker, Dr. Emilio Reyes, highlighted the game's role in democratizing access to economic opportunities. He argued that Axie Infinity illustrated a seismic shift in how work and value are perceived in the digital age. Across the Pacific, in Silicon Valley, investors took note. Venture capitalists started investing heavily in blockchain gaming startups, hoping to replicate Axie Infinity's meteoric rise. Sky Mavis secured additional funding, allowing them to expand their team and infrastructure. Yet, this influx of investment brought its own pressures. Trung and his partners knew they stood at the center of a burgeoning industry with high expectations. The pressure to innovate and maintain their lead was immense. They had to ensure Axie Infinity's success was not fleeting, but a sustainable future model. As 2021 closed, the world watched Sky Mavis navigate the challenges of scaling an unprecedented digital economy. The game's community, spread across continents, remained hopeful that adjustments would preserve their newfound financial independence. Jenilyn Cuneta, like many players, adapted to changes as they came. She diversified her involvement within the Axie ecosystem, moving into scholarship programs. These programs allowed those without initial capital to borrow Axies, sharing in the SLP produced. Jenilyn became a mentor, guiding new players through the game's complexities. Her story continued to inspire, embodying the resilience and adaptability the evolving landscape required. Yet, beneath the vibrant digital world, the economic model's fragility lingered. Sky Mavis knew any technical or security breach could jeopardize the trust they built with their community. As the game evolved, maintaining security and transparency was paramount. The team dedicated resources to safeguard the platform's integrity and players' investments. In March 2022, these challenges became more pressing. A significant security breach exposed vulnerabilities within the game's infrastructure. The breach sent shockwaves through the community, leading to a dramatic drop in token values. The incident shook the trust of players, investors, and the broader digital community. Trung Nguyen and his team faced the daunting task of rebuilding confidence and ensuring Axie Infinity could recover from this setback. They worked tirelessly to strengthen the platform's security measures and improve transparency with users. The breach underscored a harsh reality. Axie Infinity's rapid ascent had outpaced foundational safeguards. As Trung Nguyen reflected on the journey from his initial vision in Ho Chi Minh City to this pivotal moment, he understood that the coming months would be critical. The digital dream Axie Infinity represented was at a crossroads, needing careful navigation to ensure survival and continued impact. The next steps would determine the future of the game and the burgeoning notion of digital economies in the broader world. For players like Jenilyn, the months following the breach were fraught with uncertainty. Yet, the community's resilience shone through as they rallied online, sharing strategies and supporting one another. Sky Mavis, with renewed focus, sought to re-establish the robust economy they once fostered. They introduced measures to address inflation and stabilize SLP value, working closely with economists and blockchain experts. The effort was a testament to their commitment to restoring the trust and hope Axie Infinity once inspired globally. As the dust settled, the team realized their journey was far from over. They had entered uncharted territory where digital landscapes met real-world economic realities. Sky Mavis was poised not only to rebuild, but also to redefine what the future of such ecosystems might look like. On March 23, 2022, a digital storm quietly brewed. Sky Mavis, the force behind Axie Infinity, was planning ambitious updates and expansions. Developers wrote code with precision, dreaming of new possibilities for their virtual domain. But unknown to them, a breach was unfolding that threatened to unravel their creation. Deep within the intricate layers of code, hackers exploited a vulnerability. This loophole lay in the Ronin Bridge, crucial infrastructure connecting Axie Infinity to the Ethereum network. The exploit allowed them to siphon off over $600 million in cryptocurrency. This wasn't just a catastrophic blow to Sky Mavis. It shook every player who had invested time and money into this digital ecosystem. For days, the breach went unnoticed. On March 29th, developers detected unusual activity. They halted transactions on the Ronin Bridge immediately. Panic spread as news of the breach leaked, threatening the trust Axie Infinity had painstakingly built over the years. Sky Mavis's leadership, including Trung Nguyen, faced an unprecedented crisis. They needed to act swiftly to reassure their community and investors. On March 30th, they issued a statement acknowledging the breach and promising to make affected users whole. This promise would require immense resources and time, both hard to come by amid the turmoil. In Cabanatuan City, Jeneline Kaneda felt the impact almost immediately. Her in-game assets plummeted in value. For many like her, Axie Infinity wasn't just entertainment, it was a lifeline. The breach threatened to sever that lifeline, leaving families in financial uncertainty. Developers worked tirelessly to address the breach. They collaborated with cybersecurity experts, ethical hackers, and law enforcement agencies. Their goal was twofold: recover the stolen funds and reinforce the system to prevent future attacks. Every step was watched by a now skeptical community. Sky Mavis sought to stabilize the platform by raising funds to cover the losses. By April, they secured $150 million from investors, a testament to some lingering faith in the game's future. Yet, it was only a fraction of what was needed. The road to recovery was long and fraught with challenges. The incident raised broader questions about the security of digital currencies. As Axie Infinity was thrust into the spotlight, so too were discussions about blockchain vulnerabilities. Could trust be fully restored in systems that seemed easily exploitable? The event became a critical case study for blockchain security enthusiasts and skeptics alike. For the players, the breach was a harsh lesson in digital economies. Many saw Axie Infinity as an escape from the economic constraints of their real-world lives. The breach underscored the fragility inherent in such systems, where fortunes could vanish at the click of a button. Globally, players logged into their accounts to find their assets drastically devalued. Tokens they had earned, symbols of hope and prosperity, were now mere shadows of their former worth. The psychological impact was profound, as digital identity clashed with financial reality. Leadership at Sky Mavis had to confront hard truths. The breach exposed not only technical vulnerabilities, but also shortcomings in their crisis management strategies. Trung Nguyen and his team needed to rebuild not just technological frameworks, but the very fabric of trust that held their community together. In the weeks following the breach, Sky Mavis launched initiatives to engage directly with their community. Town halls and online forums became frequent, spaces where players could voice concerns and receive updates. These interactions were vital, providing transparency and accountability amidst the chaos. While resolving the breach was the immediate focus, it prompted deeper introspection within Sky Mavis. They began reevaluating their core principles and the game's economic model, considering sustainability and security as paramount. This was no longer about recovering losses, but ensuring future resilience. The breach was a wake-up call for the entire blockchain gaming industry. It highlighted the need for robust security measures and responsible economic planning. As Sky Mavis navigated these turbulent waters, other companies in the space watched and learned. In Cabanatuan City, Jenilyn and her community banded together. They shared tips on safeguarding digital assets and supported each other through the uncertainty. While the financial hit was significant, the breach also strengthened community bonds, fostering a new sense of solidarity among players. The breach marked a new chapter for Axie Infinity, where challenges and opportunities came hand in hand. It forced the team to innovate quickly, prioritize security, and rethink the future of their game. The lessons learned would shape not only their platform, but also the broader landscape of digital economies. In the aftermath, Sky Mavis invested heavily in cybersecurity infrastructure. They hired top-tier experts and implemented advanced protective technologies. The goal was clear: prevent a recurrence of such an event. These measures were not only necessary, but critical to rebuilding their tarnished reputation. Sky Mavis also sought to diversify their offerings within Axie Infinity. They explored new gameplay mechanics and tokenomics models to drive engagement and stability. The breach, though devastating, served as a catalyst for innovation, pushing the company to explore uncharted territories. Community trust, once shaken, began to mend slowly. Transparency in communication and proactive measures helped regain player confidence. Sky Mavis learned that resilience wasn't just in the technology they built, but in the relationships they nurtured with their community. As months passed, the scars of March 2022 remained, a constant reminder of vulnerabilities past. Yet, from these scars grew a renewed dedication to build a game that could withstand the tests of time and technology. Axie Infinity was no longer just about digital pets and battles. It was about building a sustainable future for digital economies. Sky Mavis's journey was far from over. The breach may have set them back, but it also propelled them forward with newfound clarity and purpose. Their commitment to their community and the game they had created was stronger than ever. In the wake of the breach, Sky Mavis took bold steps to redefine their vision. They saw the potential for Axie Infinity not just as a game, but as a platform for education and empowerment, a place where players could learn about blockchain technology while earning real-world value. Jenilyn, reflecting on the past months, found herself cautiously optimistic. The breach had been a test of resilience for her and her community. It taught lessons she never expected to learn through a game, about risk, security, and the importance of a supportive community. The digital world had shown its darker side, but it also opened doors to innovation and renewal. Sky Mavis, with its players and developers united, stood at the crossroads of past mistakes and future potential. The story of Axie Infinity had taken a dramatic turn, but its final chapters were still unwritten. March 29, 2022. At 8:48 a.m., an email alert pinged on Alexander Volkov's screen. Sky Mavis's chief security officer glanced at it, dismissing it as routine. But the subject line, "Unusual activity detected, Ronin network," seized his focus. Volkov's heart skipped a beat as he clicked to open the email. The Ronin network, integral to Axie Infinity, powered by Ethereum, was under threat. It functioned as a vital bridge, enabling swift transactions between the game's digital tokens and the broader cryptocurrency market. Volkov understood that this infrastructure was crucial for both players and Sky Mavis. As he dug into the alert, the depth of the crisis was immediately apparent. The breach wasn't a simple hack. It was a sophisticated, meticulously planned operation executed over several months. The attackers compromised Sky Mavis's validator nodes, exploiting vulnerabilities overlooked amid rapid expansion and innovation. This oversight wasn't obvious at first glance. Unraveling the complex web of digital intrusions required significant effort. The attackers had stolen over $620 million in cryptocurrency, marking one of the largest thefts in digital history. Volkov summoned the team, and Trung Nguyen, the CEO, joined them in the dimly lit conference room. His face reflected disbelief and determination. "How could this happen?" he asked, his voice trembling with urgency. Around the table, a mix of young developers and seasoned engineers mirrored the gravity of the situation in their expressions. Nguyen grasped the breach's implications beyond financial disaster. It was a blow to the trust the company had nurtured with its community. Trust, that intangible currency, was now teetering on the brink of collapse. "We need to fix this, and we need to do it fast," Nguyen declared, his voice steady as the room nodded collectively. The team knew their response in these critical hours would define Axie Infinity's future. Meanwhile, halfway around the world, Jenilyn Cuneta began her evening routine in Cabanatuan City. She logged into Axie Infinity to check her daily earnings, as always. But something was off. The usual balance of smooth love potions essential for her family's expenses was suddenly worthless. Confused, she scrolled through community forums, her spirit sinking with each message. "Have you heard about the breach?" one post read. "Tokens are collapsing. It's chaos," another exclaimed. Panic swept through the player base like wildfire, reaching every corner of the globe where Axie Infinity had a following. Jenilyn, like many others, was left in shock, uncertain about her financial future. Back in Ho Chi Minh City, Sky Mavis's PR team worked relentlessly. They drafted statements, communicated with partners, and tried to contain the spreading panic. Each press release was carefully worded, balancing transparency with reassurance. Yet with every passing hour, the situation grew more precarious. In the ensuing days, Nguyen and his team worked tirelessly. They contacted law enforcement agencies worldwide, shared intelligence with cybersecurity experts, and communicated openly with their community. The broader crypto community offered support, acknowledging that security was a collective challenge. For many, the breach was a sobering reminder of the risks inherent in blockchain technology. April 2022. Within a month of the breach, Sky Mavis announced a partial reimbursement for affected players. The funds came from a mix of investor backing and the company's own reserves. This gesture, though significant, was merely a patch on a sinking ship. It offered hope, but the company knew rebuilding trust required more. Nguyen made personal appearances, engaging with the community through live streams and Q&A sessions. He listened to stories of loss and uncertainty, pledging to restore Axie Infinity's stature and prevent future vulnerabilities. His commitment was genuine, yet he knew the journey ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. For players like Jenilyn, the breach was a harsh lesson in digital economy volatility. She diversified her income, wary of placing all her faith in one digital basket. Her story echoed in forums worldwide, a shared narrative of digital hope turned to caution. The security breach became a pivotal moment for the cryptocurrency and blockchain gaming industries. As the dust settled, discussions shifted towards digital regulation and security enhancements. Policymakers, observing from the sidelines, began to pay closer attention. The breach catalyzed conversations about the need for standardized security protocols across blockchain platforms. These discussions, though nascent, hinted at a future where digital ecosystems could be both revolutionary and secure. Sky Mavis, wiser from their oversight, began implementing stringent security measures. They conducted thorough system audits, recruited top cybersecurity talent, and forged alliances with tech giants to bolster defenses. In essence, they were transforming the breach into a catalyst for stronger, more resilient architecture. The breach, marked by crisis, also sparked innovation and introspection. For Trung Nguyen and his team, the experience reaffirmed their commitment to pioneering a digital future with a newfound awareness of its vulnerabilities. As the community rallied together, united in their shared vision, Axie Infinity began to rebuild. Not just as a game, but as a symbol of resilience in an ever-evolving digital world. This moment in Axie Infinity's story was pivotal. It was a crack in their armor, yet it illuminated the path forward, highlighting the need for diligence, transparency, and innovation. For those who weathered the storm, the lessons learned were invaluable, shaping a future that balanced ambition with caution. On April 2022, Trung Nguyen sat alone in his Ho Chi Minh City office, his thoughts consumed by the chaos that had unfolded. Just weeks earlier, Sky Mavis had suffered a massive blow. A security breach had revealed vulnerabilities previously hidden within their digital empire. The Ronin network, crucial for Axie Infinity's operations, was compromised. Hackers siphoned 173,600 Ethereum and 20.5 million USDC, totaling over $600 million. It marked one of cryptocurrency's largest thefts. Consequences were swift and severe. Years of cultivated trust vanished overnight. Players who had invested time, money, and hope began to panic. Forums buzzed with fear and speculation, while social media overflowed with criticism. Jenilyn Cuneta, a devoted player, felt the hit deeply. As a single mother, she relied on the game for financial support. Her earnings plummeted, and the once valuable smooth love potions turned nearly worthless. Around the world, thousands faced similar distress. In the Philippines, many had turned to Axie Infinity as a pandemic lifeline. The economic fallout was profound. Families grappled with uncertainty as their digital safety net unraveled. Sky Mavis scrambled to contain the damage. They immediately shut down the bridge to prevent further losses and launched a thorough investigation. Trung Nguyen and his team worked tirelessly to understand the breach. Their architecture wasn't as impervious as they believed. The company promised to reimburse affected users. They hoped to restore faith in the platform. External experts were brought in to audit security systems, aiming to patch vulnerabilities. Yet these efforts couldn't erase the damage done. The atmosphere at Sky Mavis was somber. The once optimistic team now carried a heavy burden. Many felt a personal connection to the players. They knew the faces and stories of those who played daily. The breach was a technical failure, but also a deeply human one. By May, the value of Axie Infinity's token, AXS, continued to fall. Once hailed as a revolutionary digital work model, the game now highlighted the volatility of virtual economies. Those who profited during its peak faced harsh losses. Trung Nguyen reflected on Axie Infinity's early days. From a venture to redefine digital ownership, it had grown beyond expectations. With growth came unforeseen challenges that tested their ideals' very foundation. In Cabanatuan City, Jenilyn sought alternatives. The promise of quick cryptocurrency profits had dimmed. She needed a stable income source. Her story mirrored many others caught in the digital gold rush. Meanwhile, analysts scrutinized the collapse. Economists debated the sustainability of play-to-earn models. Could such ecosystems offer true economic stability? The crypto community faced hard truths about security and trust. In July 2022, Sky Mavis made a crucial decision. They partnered with major blockchain security firms to fortify systems against future breaches. This move was a commitment to transparency and accountability, crucial for rebuilding confidence. Despite efforts, some damage was irreparable. Players once passionate about Axie Infinity now viewed it skeptically. The game, a beacon of hope, became synonymous with digital economy risks. For Trung Nguyen, the experience was transformative. They had underestimated managing a global economic system's complexities. The breach revealed flaws in their security and understanding of success's responsibilities. Yet amidst turmoil, hope glimmered. The Axie Infinity community proved resilient. Players banded together, supporting each other through forums and social media, sharing tips to weather the storm. Post-breach, Trung Nguyen and his team focused on rebuilding. They launched educational initiatives to help players understand digital finance better. These efforts aim to foster a more informed, resilient community. Sky Mavis also explored new partnerships. They aim to diversify offerings beyond Axie Infinity. Creating a broader ecosystem was essential to withstand crypto market volatility. This strategic pivot was vital for survival and growth. By 2022's end, a semblance of stability returned. Though token values remained below their peak, the player base showed signs of recovery. Those who stayed were committed to seeing the project through, motivated by overcoming adversity together. Axie Infinity's fall reminded of digital ecosystems' fragility. It underscored the need for robust security, transparent governance, and realistic economic models. Lessons from this chapter would shape not just Axie Infinity's future, but blockchain gaming's broader landscape. For Trung Nguyen, the path forward was clear. He vowed to rebuild the platform, trust, and community foundation. He understood digital economy's power and potential, committing to innovation with renewed caution and respect for underlying vulnerabilities. As the new year approached, Sky Mavis stood at a crossroads. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but each challenge offered growth and transformation opportunities. Axie Infinity's story was far from over. It was entering a new phase. April 2022. In Cabanatuan, the repercussions of the digital breach echoed deeply. Jenilyn Cuneta sat at her modest kitchen table, eyes fixed on her phone screen. Unwelcome news glowed back at her. The numbers, once a beacon of hope, now plunged into a sea of red. Token values had plummeted, and with them, her dreams of financial stability crumbled. Jenilyn was not alone. Across the Philippines and beyond, thousands confronted a stark new reality. For many, Axie Infinity had been more than a game. It was a lifeline amid economic uncertainty. The collapse was not just financial, but profoundly emotional. It felt like a trusted ally had abandoned them, leaving players to face economic uncertainty alone. In Ho Chi Minh City, Trung Nguyen faced his own turmoil. The magnitude of the breach and its aftermath weighed heavily on him. Emails flooded his inbox, each a reminder of Sky Mavis's lost trust. Rebuilding seemed daunting, yet he refused to turn away. He sought answers and took responsibility. April 15, 2022. At Sky Mavis headquarters, a crucial meeting unfolded. The room was tense as key team members gathered with solemn expressions. The agenda was clear: restore security, confidence, and the vibrancy that once defined Axie Infinity. The vision that propelled them was now a subject of intense debate. The breach exposed vulnerabilities, but also highlighted paths to innovation. The team recognized the need to draw wisdom from adversity. They discussed enhanced security protocols, including multi-factor authentication and potential integration of decentralized finance solutions to stabilize the in-game economy. In Manila, financial analysts dissected the collapse. They pondered how a virtual economy could rise and fall so rapidly. The conversation extended beyond Axie Infinity, touching on broader implications for blockchain technology and digital assets. Insights from this analysis aimed to prevent future occurrences. In academia, the situation became a case study in the volatility of digital economies. Lectures and seminars worldwide, from Stanford to the University of the Philippines, featured Axie Infinity as a pivotal example. Scholars debated the balance between innovation and regulation, exploring how digital spaces could foster opportunity while safeguarding participants. Consumers began reassessing their relationship with digital platforms. Jenilyn, once an ardent supporter, hesitated at the thought of investing in similar ventures. Her trust, once easily given, needed time to mend. She considered alternative income sources, reflecting on more traditional avenues for her family's future. Trung Nguyen worked to bridge the gap with the community. He engaged openly in forums, listened to feedback, and laid groundwork for transparency initiatives. His sincerity met with skepticism and hope. rebuilding trust would not be quick or easy. Yet Trung remained steadfast, intent on navigating the challenging terrain with integrity. The global digital community felt the aftershocks. Developers and entrepreneurs, inspired by Axie Infinity's initial success, weighed risks more heavily. Conversations about digital safety, ethical responsibility, and economic sustainability took center stage. The Axie experience prompted re-evaluation of the foundations of digital ventures. In the following months, Sky Mavis implemented sweeping changes. They introduced a new governance structure, giving players greater influence over game decisions. This move aimed at democratizing the ecosystem, empowering those most impacted by the play-to-earn model. It was a bold step, acknowledging the importance of community involvement in safeguarding the platform's future. The company also initiated a compensation program for those most affected by the collapse. Genelin received an email detailing the restitution plan, a small gesture towards alleviating hardships faced by players. While it could not undo the past, it was a start, a way to reconnect with those who had once placed their trust in Axie Infinity. Sky Mavis explored partnerships with cybersecurity firms to bolster defenses. The breach served as a potent reminder of the evolving landscape of cyber threats. By investing in robust security measures, they hope to protect not just their assets, but also their community's investments. The narrative of Axie Infinity became a lens through which digital innovation complexities were viewed. As discussions unfolded, it was evident that the path forward required collaboration across industries. Financial experts, technologists, and policymakers needed to converge, establishing frameworks that could sustain the burgeoning digital economy. Trung Nguyen, amidst these changes, remained reflective. He understood Axie Infinity's legacy was dual-faceted, a testament to digital economy's potential and a cautionary emblem of their fragility. He continued leading Sky Mavis, driven by a renewed purpose to innovate responsibly and inclusively. For players, particularly those in economically vulnerable regions, the experience prompted reassessment of digital work. Genelin regained cautious optimism over time. She explored new opportunities in the emerging gig economy, equipped with lessons from her journey with Axie Infinity. Her resilience, emblematic of many within the community, shone through uncertainty. The story of Axie Infinity, marked by upheaval, did not end in despair. It sparked a renaissance of thought, urging stakeholders to envision a future where technology serves humanity without sidelining ethical considerations. The collapse was not an end, but a crucible from which new ideas and solutions could emerge. In the years that followed, Axie Infinity's influence persisted. It inspired innovations across gaming and blockchain sectors, setting a benchmark for what was possible and highlighting the importance of foresight and adaptability. Its echoes reverberated through boardrooms and classrooms alike, a continual reminder of the balance between potential and precaution. Trung Nguyen, maintaining his resolve, led Sky Mavis through a transformative phase. The company emerged more resilient, driven by lessons learned and a commitment to shaping a digital landscape that honored its community. He often reflected on the journey, aware of Axie Infinity's profound impact on lives worldwide. For those like Genelin, the experience left a lasting imprint. It reshaped perspectives on digital economies and the aspirations they could foster. As she navigated her future, she carried the memory of Axie Infinity not as a loss, but as a chapter in a broader, ongoing journey. The aftermath of Axie Infinity's collapse was not just about regaining footing. It was about evolving the narrative. It challenged all involved to think deeply about the foundations of digital communities and the responsibilities they entail. As they looked to the future, the path ahead, though uncertain, brimmed with possibilities. In the aftermath of the security breach, investigators from around the globe convened to dissect the vulnerability exposed within Axie Infinity's framework. It was early April 2022, and the atmosphere at Sky Mavis headquarters in Ho Chi Minh City was tense with anticipation. The once bustling corridors of innovation now echoed with the weight of a serious inquiry. Leading the investigation was a seasoned cybersecurity expert named Li Wei, renowned for his work in digital forensics. His team arrived with an arsenal of analytical tools, ready to probe the incident that had sent shockwaves through the gaming community. With surgical precision, they pored over lines of code, scrutinizing every potential entry point that might have been exploited by the attackers. The breach itself was stunning in its simplicity. Hackers had leveraged a vulnerability in the Ronin blockchain, which served as a sidechain to Ethereum, to siphon off roughly $625 million in cryptocurrency. This breach was one of the largest in the history of decentralized finance, a stark reminder of the cyber threats lurking in the digital shadows. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the attackers had been remarkably patient. Over several months, they bided their time, mapping the network and identifying weaknesses. It was a classic case of social engineering, combined with technical acumen, that allowed them to infiltrate the system with minimal detection. Meanwhile, Trung Nguyen, CEO of Sky Mavis, faced mounting pressure from both users and investors. He had built his company on the promise of digital security and trust, and this breach threatened to unravel everything he had worked for. Nguyen found himself in countless meetings, trying to reassure stakeholders while simultaneously overseeing efforts to patch the vulnerabilities. Sky Mavis's legal team worked tirelessly to navigate the complex regulatory landscape of cryptocurrencies. They liaised with financial authorities across multiple countries, each with its own set of laws governing digital assets. The challenge was not just technological, but also legal and reputational. As days turned into weeks, the investigators uncovered more layers to the breach. It became evident that the attackers had manipulated validator nodes, key components in the system that confirm transactions on the blockchain. By gaining control of a majority of these nodes, the attackers were able to forge withdrawals and transfer the funds undetected. The breach highlighted a critical flaw in the decentralized finance ecosystem: the concentration of power. Sky Mavis had initially set up the Ronin network with just 9 validator nodes, a decision influenced by the need for speed and efficiency. Yet this centralization made it vulnerable, a fact now laid bare in the cold light of the investigation. For players like Genel and Cuneta, who relied on Axie Infinity for their livelihood, the breach was more than a technical failure. It was a personal loss. In Cabanatuan, where she lived, the game had become a source of hope during the economic uncertainty of the pandemic. Each digital transaction represented not just currency, but a means to provide for her family. As investigators continued their work, they collaborated with blockchain analysts to trace the stolen funds. Despite the anonymity offered by cryptocurrencies, digital footprints often leave a trail. This operation required meticulous attention to detail, akin to piecing together a complex puzzle scattered across a virtual landscape. The stolen assets were traced through a labyrinth of digital wallets, each hop intended to obscure the money's origin. These tactics, while sophisticated, were not foolproof. Slowly, the team began to close in on the perpetrators, narrowing down the possible identities behind the digital facade. In the wake of the breach, Sky Mavis took decisive action. They implemented a series of security measures aimed at fortifying their defenses against future threats. These included expanding the number of validator nodes and conducting comprehensive audits of their digital infrastructure. Nguyen and his team recognized that rebuilding trust would require more than technical fixes. They engaged with their community, hosting forums and discussions to address concerns and gather feedback. Transparency became their guiding principle, a necessary strategy to regain the confidence of players and investors alike. This period marked a turning point for Sky Mavis. The company realized that its future depended not only on technological robustness, but also on adapting to the evolving standards of digital accountability. The breach had underscored the inherent risks of operating in the rapidly changing world of blockchain technology. As the investigation drew to a close, Li Wei and his team compiled their findings into a comprehensive report. The document detailed the events leading up to the breach, the methods used by the attackers, and the vulnerabilities uncovered. It was a sobering account, intended to serve as a learning tool for the broader tech community. The breach was a wake-up call for the entire industry, prompting discussions about security protocols and the future of decentralized finance. Developers and policymakers alike began to reassess the balance between innovation and security, a conversation that would continue to shape the landscape of digital economies. For Jenilyn and thousands like her, the breach had shattered the illusion of stability offered by the digital world. Yet, it also sparked a resolve to adapt and overcome. Communities rallied together, finding new ways to leverage their digital skills in the face of adversity. In the months following the breach, Sky Mavis embarked on a path of recovery and reinvention. They cultivated partnerships with cybersecurity firms, investing heavily in research and development to enhance their platform's resilience. Nguyen was determined to turn this crisis into an opportunity for growth and learning. The breach, while devastating, became a catalyst for change. It forced the industry to confront its vulnerabilities and inspired a renewed commitment to creating secure and sustainable digital ecosystems. The lessons learned from this incident would resonate far beyond the world of Axie Infinity, influencing the future of blockchain technology and its applications. As the dust settled, the story of Axie Infinity's breach became a testament to the resilience of both individuals and organizations. It highlighted the fragility of digital economies, but also their potential for recovery and evolution. In the end, the breach was not just a tale of loss, but also one of perseverance and the enduring spirit of innovation. Trung Nguyen and his team emerged from this trial with a deeper understanding of the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead in the digital frontier. With renewed determination, they set their sights on the future, ready to forge new paths in the ever-evolving landscape of blockchain technology. On May 5, 2022, Trung Nguyen and the remaining team at Sky Mavis gathered in their conference room in Ho Chi Minh City. The air was thick with the weight of recent events. The once vibrant room felt somber. Despite the difficulties, they understood that Axie Infinity's story was far from over. They convened to chart the immediate recovery and ponder a broader question. What would be the legacy of Axie Infinity? The digital calamity they faced had not only shaken their business, but challenged the foundation of digital economies. In the aftermath, scholars and industry experts dissected the events, seeking lessons in the fall of the once mighty digital empire. Their analysis focused on technical aspects and the socio-economic impact of what had transpired. Axie Infinity's model, once hailed for innovation, had become a case study in the pitfalls of rapid digital economic expansion. The game's impact on the Philippines was documented in measurable terms. By the second half of 2021, the country accounted for more than 40% of Axie's active player base. Chainalysis ranked the Philippines as the world's top country for cryptocurrency adoption in 2021, driven largely by Axie activity. At peak SLP prices, some players earned the equivalent of 3 to 5 times the national minimum wage, a stark contrast to the near-zero token values that followed the March 2022 hack. In the months following the breach, Trung Nguyen and his team dedicated themselves to rebuilding trust within their community. They prioritized transparency, issuing regular updates on security improvements, and long-term plans to safeguard the platform's integrity. Accountability was crucial, not just for Axie Infinity, but for all blockchain-based platforms. The lessons learned from Axie's vulnerabilities informed new industry standards, setting benchmarks for digital security and user protection. As they navigated this period, Trungwin often reflected on the early days of Sky Mavis. In 2018, excitement and vision drove their work, rooted in a belief that they could redefine digital ownership and economic participation. Though the journey took unexpected turns, this belief remained core to their mission. The potential to democratize economic opportunities through technology was still a driving force, even as they grappled with their challenges. Meanwhile, in Manila and Jakarta, players who once relied on Axie Infinity began exploring alternative income sources. The sudden collapse of token values served as a sobering reminder of the risks inherent in novel digital economies. Communities affected by the downturn organized support networks, sharing knowledge and resources to navigate their new economic landscape. This sense of community resilience became an unexpected positive outcome, as players supported one another through adversity. By July 2022, industry forums and conferences featured panels dedicated to the Axie Infinity phenomenon. These discussions were explorations of digital economy's potential when managed with foresight and adaptability. They delved into the importance of balanced in-game economies and robust security infrastructures. Thought leaders emphasized that innovation should be accompanied by responsible stewardship, ensuring that technological advancements benefit broader society rather than disproportionately rewarding a few. As they looked to the future, the Sky Mavis team initiated collaborations with cybersecurity experts and economists. They consulted with academics from the National University of Singapore and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, seeking guidance on sustainable economic models and enhanced security protocols. These partnerships signaled a commitment to learning and evolving. Collaboration was key to creating resilient digital ecosystems. Their shared goal was to pave the way for future platforms offering genuine, lasting benefits without repeating past mistakes. Elsewhere, blockchain technology continued to evolve, driven by lessons learned from Axie Infinity and ongoing innovations of countless developers worldwide. The potential for decentralized finance and digital ownership remained vast. New projects emerged with revised frameworks prioritizing user safety and economic sustainability. This ongoing evolution underscored the dynamic nature of technology and its capacity to drive societal change, even amidst setbacks. In the Philippines, guild organizations that had grown as intermediaries, loaning NFT Axies to scholars in exchange for revenue shares, found their business models unsustainable once token prices collapsed. The scholarship system had created an additional layer of financial dependency, and its unraveling left many without the assets or income they had counted on. Economists studying the collapse noted that over 2.7 million daily active users had been exposed to that economic risk at peak adoption. By the end of 2022, Axie Infinity stabilized to some extent, with a smaller but more informed player base. The game itself underwent significant changes, incorporating input from its community to better align with their needs and expectations. This period of rebuilding was characterized by a renewed focus on creating a balanced and secure gaming environment. The adjustments reflected an understanding that while technological innovation could drive growth, sustainability required active engagement with the community it served. Throughout this time, Trungwin continued to advocate for the transformative potential of blockchain technology. He frequently spoke at industry events, sharing insights from Sky Mavis's experiences and encouraging others to prioritize ethical innovation. His message was clear. The future of digital spaces depended on the responsibility of those creating and managing them. This forward-looking approach resonated with audiences, many of whom had also grappled with the challenges of rapid technological change. In reflecting on Axie Infinity's legacy, Trung Nguyen and his team recognized their journey as both a testament to human ingenuity and a reminder of its limits. The game's rise and fall illustrated the power of technology to connect and empower, but also the need for vigilance and adaptability. As they looked to the future, they remained committed to the ideals that inspired them from the start: innovation, inclusivity, and responsibility. Their story, though marked by challenges, was ultimately one of resilience and learning. As 2023 unfolded, the landscape of blockchain gaming began to shift. New platforms emerged, drawing on lessons from their predecessors to offer refined experiences and improved security. Axie Infinity's influence was evident in these developments. The industry collectively sought to build on its successes while avoiding its pitfalls. The game's legacy, though complex, continued to inspire innovation and dialogue within the digital economy. The journey of Axie Infinity had been profound, marked by highs and lows, triumphs and lessons learned. Its impact extended beyond the digital realm, influencing broader conversations about the future of work and economic opportunity. As Trung Nguyen and his team continued to innovate, they did so with a deepened understanding of the responsibilities inherent in shaping digital futures. They knew the legacy of Axie Infinity was not just in its past, but in the possibilities it unlocked for the future. And so, as Sky Mavis charted new paths, the story of Axie Infinity remained a powerful symbol of both potential and caution. Its legacy, woven into the fabric of digital innovation, would serve as a guiding light for those daring to dream. As this chapter closes, let the gentle hum of a fan overhead soothe your senses. Let Axie Infinity's story become a lullaby, a reminder of the interconnected world we shape with dreams and uncertainties. May you drift into restful sleep, carrying the quiet promise of new possibilities waiting to unfold with the dawn. Sleep well, dear listener. Good night.